Hi. I want to make a extremely super duper tubularly long video on this subject, and it's the best medium to sell the message of antinatalism, life, futility, the whole idea of perceptual understanding of existence as a whole. And I think a good message, like I've mentioned this before, whatever message through art, something, I mean, you want to send it through a message where you're going to get to the most people that you know are going to understand the message that you're trying to get. In many cases, you sell it to you say through music or art or something like that, instead of just flat out bland science and the very hard facts. um, when you realize you're going to have to get to the most people, it's about how you're going to get to the most people and convince the most people. How serious is the message going to be, go through the medium? How many people can you convince? Is it the right people you're trying to convince? I mean, say something like YouTube. I mean, if you build up an audience, it's going to be self-serving at that point. You're only going to serve the same people over and over again, because it depends on how you project the information, how you present the information. And if you're just presenting it the same way, you're just going to attract the same people on and on again. It's about changing up the message. And I think to a certain extent, selling it through art or something, giving a message through art can emotionally get to people when you make it a powerful image. And it's about how you can hit people, the most people. And I think art and music are the best, probably one of the best ways of entertaining, say, other than just philosophy vlogs on YouTube or something, is because you're going to convince the most amount of people the best way. The most amount of people, the people that need convincing the most, and the most amount of people, because the people that generally listen to music, drink alcohol, whatever it is, are the kind of people that don't really understand the game that much, and they're the ones that are reinforcing the game and keep falling for the same folly over and over again. They're part of the folly. They're part of the roadkill that keeps on getting run over in the road because they don't learn the lesson. They don't watch the other, creature before them get run over, so they keep making the same mistake. And that's exactly what we're trying to accomplish. And I think, music, selling a message through that, is convincing the right people the right way, the most amount of people the right way. The people that need the most convincing. And I think selling a message through something kind of cliche like that, through that kind of messaging, is the best way, because the most amount of people are going to hear it that way through something like that, a drawing, a movie, selling it through a movie, along the lines, because you're going to hit the most people, and the most people that need the message to be heard, because they're the ones you're going to be selling this to, the most amount of people that need to be convinced, because it's generally the stupider people that go to concerts or whatever it is, or go to movie theaters and eat popcorn and drink their 24-ounce Coke or whatever it is, Mountain Dew or whatever it is they drink, and go to bars and drink, play at a bar or something, convince them of that. I mean, it's there's these ways of sending out the message. And I think it's a good message to send, and it's about emotionally, to a certain extent, depending on the circumstances, getting to people. I think if you apply enough emotion to a song and you make it clear enough or meaningful enough and they can understand it, then you can convince people a certain way. Because especially when, celebrity praise and whatever, if a famous person comes with an idea, and a convincing idea, a political idea, they can get a lot of, say, charity for a certain event or a certain idea, or for a certain cause to a certain extent. They can get people, convince people that way, at least to lend them, some money to a cause that can accomplish a goal. If not, completely agree with someone and convince someone of something, and you make them agree with it, and not only agree with it, but become part of the cause. I think that's a good way to send a message. And that's obviously what you have to do to a certain degree and just to a certain extent. Otherwise, you're not going to get any message sent across at all. So it's about sending the message the right way to the most amount of people that need to be convinced. And if you're just doing it on YouTube talking philosophy, you're only going to be attracting the right people to begin with. It's about attracting the wrong people, the people that don't understand it to begin with, and that sometimes requires a different medium to sell the message through, or to convince people through. And it requires sometimes doing a medium that obviously that can convince most people. Talking is not interesting enough to most people. It's not emotional enough. It's not something that's going to draw people in. So you have to draw people in some other way. And drawing people in some other way sometimes requires becoming, lowering your denominator, becoming part of the least common denominator, but not necessarily. It's about getting to people most of the time. And if you're good enough at convincing people, you can do things your own way and convince people your own way. It's just about doing it the best way you can do it your own way. If that makes any sense. Yeah, anyway, along those lines, I think getting to people emotionally, then to intellectually understand it, so that the more people that can jump on the bandwagon that way, they can convince other people just by sheer numbers at that point. Convincing, oh, my friends are this, so I guess I can be this, and at the same time, let me try to intellectually understand this. Let me read a book on it. Let me watch a few videos on it, and they'll be convinced in and of themselves. Hopefully, if they can think for themselves at that point along. Hopefully, if that means anything. So yes. It requires a nice medium, like airwaves traveling through air, sonic boom, snap, snap, along those lines. convincing people, hopefully with a nice little simple message along the line. You have to make the message simple, something that people can understand to a certain extent, or at least look up. Let me look up on Wikipedia or whatever it is and see what that message means. Oh, I understand. I like the song. Let me see if I can understand this and convince myself of it. And they're usually the people that jump on the bandwagon the earliest. The fewer there are, the more likely they're the ones that aren't on the band, that weren't a part of the Borg, the hive mind mentality, the sheeple people. They weren't part of that to begin with. The most smarter they are because they were the black sheep. They were the stray ones before everyone else. They made a decision themselves. They thought for themselves first. They didn't need someone else to carry it out before them. So that sometimes it shows that integrity or intelligence in a person if they're one of the first ones that step away from the flock. They're the black sheep, the shades of black across their yarn here, whatever it is. So yes. I think that's really the whole message. It's about sending the message to a meeting that makes sense, convincing the right people, the most amount of people the right way, the right people, the most amount of the right people the right way. And you have to convince the Borgites typically, and the hive mind, sheeple people, Borgites, robots, kind of people, and that's how it requires, and you need to do it that way, otherwise you're not going to have much luck. You're just going to keep self-serving the same people, because if you talk philosophy on the internet, you have a lot of numbers and a lot of hard language, using certain language, full of philosophical language. You're not going to draw many people, so you have to send a message that's a little more consumable by the mainstream cliche kind of human, or get them to jump on the bandwagon, at least through proxy, by way of a lot of their friends jumping on the bandwagon. Because if you have enough people, it's almost irreversible to do it the other way and turn it back around and regress, because it doesn't always work the same way. Yes, it's a one-way thing where it's moving all in one way, but you can say, well, it can just turn right back around. But once you've gone the right way, turning back around is harder. Obviously, in ignorance, it's easier to turn to the right way than it is to turn the wrong way, even though it seems very impossible, like losing weight's harder than gaining weight. Actually, that applies to the same thing. It's hard to regress back. While people may regress, it's usually extreme, and it usually applies, and that applies to everyone. All of a sudden, it means all of a sudden a small group of people regress, and all of a sudden it seems like everyone's regressing. But once you've gained the weight, or you've gone to the right side, even though gaining weight is along the same analogy, it's hard to lose weight back. If you lose weight, it's going to be a little bit or a little bit at a time, if not at all. Along the same lines. It's about losing and winning, which one's easier and harder. And it's harder to regress back once you know the truth, because it's not going to work the same way. Once you have the truth, it's hard to regress back, and then when you're in ignorance, to go to the truth, because the truth, it's a one-way ticket. Once you have the truth, you can't go back. So yeah, that's the same message, and it's the same, art, music, whatever. Just whatever to sell the message the best way. That's really the only meaning of this video. So yeah, that's all I wanted to mention, really. If I have anything else to say, I can mention this in another video. So thank you, and until next time, bye.